Hello and welcome to the 3-Minute Halacha. Today we're learning about the malacha of kosher, of tying on Shabbos. And it's a good thing that today is Monday because this is a complicated malacha. There's a lot that goes into it, so we'll need a few days to really iron it out and to clarify what is and what is not an appropriate knot to make on Shabbos. And so whenever we're looking at malacha, we always want to know, where does it start out? Where did it exist in the Mishkan? And so in the Mishkan, and Gemara tells us on Shabbos, Daf Ayin Dalet Amud Beis, that they used to tie knots in the nets in order to catch the snails, the chilazon, that would enable them to create the dyes. And so they were fishing effectively, and they would tie these nets together. Additionally, to make the tapestries on the top of the Mishkan, they may have or may not have tied those tapestries together, but that source really explains to us what's different about kosher versus Tofer or Bona. Tofer and Bona, you're taking two distinct things, putting them together, and now they're really one unit. You've created a building, you've created a house, that's one thing. However, when it comes to kosher, you're taking two separate things, you're putting them together, but they're still two distinct things, they're just now connected. And that really gets into the root of the malacha, and it gets into a machlokus in the Rishonim about what will constitute the malacha. According to the first opinion of Rashi and the Rush and the Or Zarua, you need a knot. If there's no knot taking place, then it's not called kosher, and it's not going to be necessarily a biblical violation of Shabbos. However, according to the Rambam and the Rif and the Pesach and the Shulchan Aruch, if you have any connection, not specifically, not such a narrow view of just a knot, if any sort of connection that's preventing the two things from separating, that will also be included in the Isser. We'll clarify that in the coming days. But when we get to application, the most explicit application is the Gemara Masechah Shabbos on Kuf Yud Beis, where it references the Mishnah that there are three types of knots. The first type of knot is sort of the most obvious, the most explicit. It's the knot of a camel or of a sailor, and this is a chiyuv chatas. This is going to be a biblical prohibition. And why? Because this seemingly is a knot that is both permanent and is professional. And you've got these professionals, the sailor, the camel driver, who is tying the knot, and it's intended to last for a very long time, for long trips like that of a camel or on a boat. The second and third levels, we know that the Gemara tells us there's a rabbinically prohibited, and we know that there is a mutter way of tying a knot, but we're not so clear on the specifics about what that looks like. And so we can really break down the first one into its disparate parts. If maybe it's permanent, but it's not professional, maybe it's rabbinically prohibited. And if it's professional but not necessarily permanent, maybe it's rabbinically prohibited. We end up poskening l'chomer that we don't want to do either one. And so the only time that it'll be mutter for us to tie a knot is if it is not going to last a long time and it's not going to be done professionally, really not have the capacity to last for a long time. The example really is that if it's going to last for less than 24 hours and it's not a fancy schmancy professional knot, then we'll say that it's mutter, although we'll have to clarify that in the coming days. Just to sort of clarify a little bit more, what does permanent versus not permanent mean? The Torah will tell us that 1 week is going to be considered permanent, whereas the Kobel will say 1 day. Rabbi Yerucham says it's half a year. But we assume l'chomer to be as careful as possible, that if it's going to last longer than a day, that will make it a permanent knot and something we want to avoid on Shabbos. Have a wonderful day.